And welcome back. We're live on KBLP with the Book Corner with Denise Harrison. Tonight we're discussing mystery, suspense, and murder mysteries. That was the theme from Philip Marlowe. And he was, of course, a gumshoe detective. And he was developed by Raymond Chandler. Absolutely love it. You ever notice the old detective? It's dark, it's sultry music. Usually it's dark rooms and shadows and the film noir, which is a whole nother subject, but it's always a dark, sultry, dark rooms and the drinks and the cigarettes and all that going on. It's totally awesome. The old detective. Philip Marlowe, Private Eye. It's an American mystery series that aired on HBO and by Raymond Chandler. And that was the first drama produced for HBO. Amazing. Raymond Chandler. Yes, we kind of touched base with him a little bit. I personally did not see the show, but my mom and dad did, and they used to watch that. So, Raymond Chandler, he became a novelist and screenwriter in 1932. He became a detective fiction writer after losing his job at an oil company during the Great Depression. Interesting. Absolutely brilliant. Philip Marlowe is one of his great ones. Absolutely. His first short story, Blackmailers Don't Shoot. Again, Black Mask Magazine. It was a pulp fiction magazine, but boy, wow. That magazine really got a lot of authors started. In addition to his short stories, he published 7 novels, an 8th which was in progress at the time of his death and was finished. And all but playback have been made into motion pictures more than once. In the year before his death, he was elected president of the Mystery Writers of America. Absolutely wonderful. He had an immense stylistic influence on American popular literature. He is considered to be a founder, there we go, of the hard-boiled school of detective fiction with Dashiell Hammett and Kane. and other black mask writers. A lot of authors got their start there back then. It was absolutely wonderful. The protagonist of his novels, Philip Marlowe, is like Hamlet's Sam Spade, and they are considered by some to be synonymous with private detective, period. Both were played in films by Humphrey Bogart. Uh, he is the quintessential hard-boiled gumshoe detective. I absolutely love those characters. They have some of Chandler's novels are important literary works, and 3 have been regarded as total masterpieces: Farewell, My Lovely, The Little Sister, and The Long Goodbye. And The Long Goodbye was praised in an anthology of crime stories as arguably the first book since Hammett's The Glass Key, published more than 20 years earlier, to qualify as a serious and a significant mainstream novel that just happens to have mystery in it. Absolutely, how these guys got started back then. It's not like now. They really had to come up with something, and of course we have Sam Spade, Philip Marlowe, and we know those names. It's not something that just came out of the woodwork. We know those names. We associate that with like Humphrey Bogart and William Powell, the Thin Man, and all those. I absolutely love the old stories in the films on those. So Raymond Chandler, of course, is another one I wanted to bring up was Ellery Queen. I don't know if anybody remembers that series. My mom absolutely loved Ellery Queen. It's an amazing. I got to see some of them that I remember. I'd love to get some copies of the series. Daniel Nathan, professionally, and Manfred Bennington Lee were cousins who wrote, edited, and anthologized detective fiction under the pseudonym of Ellery Queen. The writer's main fictional character, Ellery Queen, is a mystery writer and amateur detective who helps his father, Richard Queen, a New York City police inspector, solve murders. I love Ellery Queen. He was created in 1928 when Danny and Lee entered a writing contest. McClure's Magazine, another magazine. A lot of these authors, obviously started out writing for, short stories for the magazines, which is, wow, it just amazes me. And they decided to use their collective pseudonym, the same name that they had given their detective, inspired the formula and style of Philo Vance novels by S.S. Van Dyne. And they won the contest, but before it could be published, the magazine closed. Later, the cousins took a sharp review of the character, calling him the biggest, Vance's character, Manfred Lee, calling him the biggest prig that ever came down the pike. Amazing. I loved Ellery Queen. Inspector Richard Queen and his son Ellery, and what became the most famous part of the Queen books was a challenge to the reader. This was a single page near the end of the book, declaring the reader had seen all the same clues Ellery had, and only one solution was possible. The rare distinction of the books is that this claim is accurate. There are problems in deduction that do really permit of only one answer. And so it gave the reader a challenge to solve the mystery. The fictional detective Ellery Queen is the author of books in which he appears, The Finishing Stroke, The Player on the Other Side. And he was kind of snobbish at the beginning, but I want to see who the cast was, because if I remember right, he was one of my favorite actors, Jim Hutton, Timothy Hutton's father. I absolutely loved Jim Hutton because he, of course, played in the Green Berets and that. David Wayne, of course, played his father. Absolutely, from what I saw of some of those shows, I absolutely loved it. And the books, I think there were some other things going on too, but absolutely, Ellery Queen. I definitely wanted to bring him up because he is definitely a figure in the detective genre we had to cover. So that pretty much covers a lot of detective novels, the backgrounds, the stories behind it. And like I said, I love the old Gumshoe detective stories, the characters. And it's always, like I said, the music, dark, sultry, jazzy type music. You gotta love it. You have to love it. And of course, we discussed Agatha Christie, Dorothy Sayers, Raymond Chandler, Anne Perry, Lincoln and Child, Preston and Child. Lincoln Preston and Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. Absolutely, I love those two. Please read some of these if you haven't already. They are totally amazing, and it might hook you. One or all of them might. Loved them. We discussed so many attributes to the hard-boiled detectives: Philip Marlowe, Sam Spade, Maltese Falcon. Of course, Humphrey Bogart was in that. Sidney Greenstreet, love his laugh. You had to laugh with him. It just cracked me up. He was just totally amazing. I know there's more. There were a lot of radio shows back in the day. Not that some of us know about those, but a lot of radio shows, The Shadow. I love that beginning there. The Shadow knows. Of course he does. He knows everything. Just the old time suspense theaters and CBS mysteries and all those. Absolutely. They were the best. Now it's not so much detective that you see on TV anymore. It's more, I don't know. I can't even come up with one that I would even compare it to. I just can't think of any shows I could compare those to the older shows. I can't think of any offhand that I could even compare it to. Of course, you have CSI, but that, of course, has to do with crime scene investigation. But, it always dealt with dead people. There was, kind of murder mystery, but it got old after a while. You could pretty much predict what was going to happen. Some of the novels you couldn't predict. That's, the descriptions of the time periods, what was going on. I thought back in the day were absolutely amazing.